2nd Wolverine Hussars. Hold your position.
The wailing of klaxons grew in Mech Warrior Darren's ringing ears as consciousness swelled, returning him from the void to the fractured bubble of his cockpit. Sheets of rain hammered against the broken canopy, the wind keening from a sharp-edged hole. He was on his back, looking up, from the wet emerald floor of the jungle to the rolling gray thunderhead above. He groped for the controls, and his war machine, an Ash Badger Omni-Mech, screamed and squealed like a broken dog as he tried to wrestle it onto its feet in the shallow gully. Moments ago, it had seemed nigh invincible. Now, tearing metal wailed in anguish as he forced it onto its side. A new row of indicators turned red, and twisting panic rolled through his gut.
Windsor Gamma 3 to Windsor Actual. The Viper Fusiliers are here in the Piebald Pass. The whole cluster.
No answer. His reflection shivered at him from his broken visor, blood dripping from the thick of his brow. I will not die here, he told himself. He did not believe it. Tamoy lunged at the fallen Hellbringer and pummeled it mercilessly. Lasers pulsed, blasting into Tamoy's chest. But Gorton felt no fear. He hacked and slashed and pounded, his vision gone blood red. At last the saw sheared clear through one of the Hellbringer's knee actuators, and the machine fell to the ground once again. Gorton placed one of Tamoy's feet on the Hellbringer's torso, just beneath the cockpit.
Do it, you freeborn filth!
Cattell hissed. Gorton could feel the heat in his veins, the shaking in his fingers. So many times he'd been here before, heard cries for mercy, oaths of defiance. He had never listened to any of them, just finished the job and moved on. Today was different, though. He'd come to Roskin to get away from the screams of dying mech warriors. He wasn't about to change that.
Quarter,
Gorton said.
Never.
Cattell growled back.
I'm not asking you, kid. I'm giving it to you. Fight's over. I win.
A few more switches, and the cockpit came to life around him. The primary and secondary monitors flickered. Below him, gentle vibrations wove up through the floor of the cockpit and the command couch. The engine oscillated at an unusual frequency, one that tickled the base of Kevin's skull, right where it met his neck. He leaned back and listened to it for a moment, felt the vibrations as they worked their way up his spine. It was soothing, in a way, almost like getting a massage, but from feathers instead of fingers. He closed his eyes, and vibrant colors blossomed on the back of his eyelids. They were pretty and wild. Some were unidentifiable, too awesome to describe in frail human words. There were shapes moving in them.
Totsky to McCarthy,
I shouted.
2 mech stars on the flank. Stand your ground,
McCarthy shouted back.
Pick your targets,
I shouted, bringing both my extended range PPCs and large pulse laser onto the Blackhawk, and fired.
Mace, I've got birds on 3 sides now. We hold,
McCarthy shouted.
We can't,
I snarled back, firing at and missing one of the unknown mechs.
We're getting hammered on 3 sides. We're gonna be killed if we don't fall back. And have the Dragoons laugh at us? We stand our ground.
The clans defeated. The battle lost. No, not just the battle. The campaign, the war, everything. It was the end. Failure. In a pool of stale sweat and self-pity, Mech Warrior Friedrich sat slumped against the bulkhead and stared without seeing. The steel plate rattled erratically against his back as the dropship thundered through the atmosphere, a constant, nudging reminder of their loss. His stained cooling suit dropped open, half unzipped. Thatches of black hair clustered about his scalp in confused clumps. His useless fists closed on nothing and beat the futile air until he bit down on his knuckles to trap the scream forming there. Despair. Ever since I was a little girl, I dreamt of going to Galatea one day, said Captain Katie Ferraro as she stared longingly out the dropship window at the swirled marble of a planet below. It's not so great, Dexter Nix, one of the mech warriors in her command, said from across the room. What makes you say that? She turned to look at him for just a moment, not wanting to tear her eyes from the heavenly sight before her. I mean, it's just a place like any other. Easy for you to say. You've been lots of places. How can I know I don't want to go to a place if I don't ever go there? How can you tell you don't want to eat food if you haven't eaten it before? Galatea looks and smells funny. Like mercenary sweat and battered mechs everywhere. Every merc unit in the inner sphere trying to make a name for themselves. They'll eat you alive down there if you're not careful. Katie's grin couldn't be contained. It sounds perfect. For you, I bet it would be.